Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a smashing Saturday so far. Today we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we're going to do a number of things in this video, and we're going to be switching things up somewhat. We're going to be getting into a bit of the drama taking place within the cryptocurrency market currently, and it's got everything to do with, of course, Terra Luna and their UST briefly losing its peg to $1 and becoming somewhat of an unstable stablecoin. But we're going to break this down in this video because this is important. And in actual fact, if we did see some sort of a collapse in UST, which I don't think is likely, it's dealt with the volatility that it's experienced very well, in my opinion, so far. But if we did see some sort of a collapse of UST, that would be very detrimental for the cryptocurrency market. To start things off, though, guys, we are going to be recapping on everything that we've been saying over the past couple of weeks now, and that is that we've ultimately been looking at this market and expecting more downside across the board. We've been reiterating that bias, and it is indeed going that way, which doesn't fill me necessarily with any joy. The only joy that I take from the cryptocurrency market going down is the fact that I'm going to be able to accumulate more crypto at a cheaper price, because we will come out the other end of all this. It's just that right now, guys, and the main thing to watch if you're in crypto is really the Federal Reserve. Forget even looking at the cryptocurrency markets. You could basically predict what they're going to do, unless you're an intraday trader, based on the Fed and their monetary tightening cycle that they're now in. We've got a video coming out later today where we've brought David Bell back on the show to talk about everything going on with markets right now and what you guys should be paying attention to. So watch out for that, guys. But ultimately, you know, we had pulled up this long-term regression bands for Bitcoin. And we had essentially said, look, you know, we were sort of bouncing around the right side of this mid range. We're now below it, and we had sort of pointed out previous times where that indeed was the outcome of hovering around here in a downtrend. We also had the 3-day death cross approaching. I think we're going to get that, and I can still see more downside for markets. Now we are watching the CPI, because if CPI comes out lower, and lots of people are estimating that it may come down to about 8.2, I think, is a consensus, instead of where it was last time at 8.5. I think markets would get a huge relief rally on the back end of that. But ultimately, I still think whilst the Fed has got set in motion what they've got set in motion, you know, the outlook for markets is to the downside. And make sure you watch that video later on today, guys, because we're really going to break things down in that video. So we're still watching for more downside for Bitcoin. You know, we've got targets, we've got sort of levels that we're looking at. Don't see any reason why some of these can't get met. We'll take the long-term regression bands off. You know, one target was hit. We put this in yesterday around about 34K. You're potentially looking at 33K. And there is a possibility that Bitcoin does go sub 30K. I don't think that's probably the next thing to happen. I think potentially what could happen is if the CPI, again, crucial data reveals that you guys need to pay attention to, actually comes out lower than it's previously been. That's going to give markets, I think, relief that a lot of them are looking for. And everything is just so tethered. You know, the close that we had for the NASDAQ and the close that we had across the board for the equity markets in the US really gave you the confidence knowing that this weekend wasn't going to be great moving forwards. But, you know, we are looking for lower points. Doesn't mean Bitcoin can't rally, and in actual fact, in the downtrend and in downtrends is when you can get some of the hardest rallies. And just remember, guys, you know, we will come back out the other end of this. Let's talk about Luna. You guys know that we were short Luna. We were short a number of altcoins, just simply because, you know, if I think Bitcoin's going down, it's a good way for me to hedge my long spot position. It makes sense that altcoins are going to follow, and we have seen that play out. And this was before I think Luna really sold off on the back end of this news in regards to their UST. You know, there was also plenty of technical reasons why I was in this trade to the downside, because you were just invalidating levels and you weren't really messing around. And you know, I still think more downside is in place, certainly if we think that's the case for Bitcoin. So these are all things you guys have got to watch. Doesn't mean we're a hater of Luna or anything else. You know, we're long these cryptos ultimately over the longer term time horizon, but short term, you know, I think markets are going to be very much one directional until we see a sort of shift with monetary policy. I think that's really something that everyone's got to pay a lot of attention to, because if you look at the intention behind monetary policy, you know, it's designed essentially to take some of the heat out of markets and the economy generally. And that should be all you really need to know. So Terra Luna plunges 14% as UST briefly loses its peg. So what I believe, and this is UST against Tether, you can see there was a huge amount of volatility here. UST is in many ways an experiment, and we'll go through some tweets from Daquan, who, of course, I think he's the head honcho for UST or Terra Money. We'll go through a few tweets from him, but UST is really kind of an experiment in the sense that it's algorithmically backed. So instead of Tether, for example, backing their tether coin with $1, so it's 1 for 1. They're tethered in that element. Luna uses crypto to maintain its peg. So, for example, one reason the Luna ecosystem, in my opinion, has done as well as it has, and I think they killed, by the way, I'm a huge fan of what they did with their stablecoin, if it works, that is. And I'm not here to suggest that it's not working. I'm just saying, when you have events like this, and it's very interesting how they always coincide with a downtrending market, it really brings into question some of the stability of some of these things. It's still very new in being developed. And when you think about crypto and you think about why it really exists, I mean, Satoshi came up with a vision to, move away from the fiat systems that we have. And the very kind of element in crypto I think at the heart of crypto, and it's evolved to much more than that now, is value and being a store and a stable, fair system of value. And that's why issues like this with Luna are interesting, because, really why it wouldn't be great if people sort of the peg for Luna was out, if that makes sense, because it would kind of damage people's trust in it, and that would be hugely catastrophic for Luna and, of course, the Terra ecosystem at large, because UST makes up a large part of it. A lot of UST has found its way back into protocols like Anchor and the Luna ecosystem. So it briefly depegged. And there's a few things here. Many saying this was a coordinated attack. Today's attack on Terra Luna UST was deliberate and coordinated. Massive 285 million UST dumped on Curve and Binance by a single player, followed by massive short on Luna and hundreds of Twitter posts. Pure staging. The project is bothering someone on the right path. Yeah, so lots of people saying this was one whale. You can see that there was indeed a large withdrawal. And this is the thing, because it's backed by crypto, the stablecoin can be volatile with the crypto market. So can you imagine if Bitcoin, for example, tanks, which is something that they hold to back their stablecoin? I think they also bought AVAX the other day. If that tanks, it kind of brings into question, well, if that's the thing backing the stablecoin, Luna backs it as well, what does that mean for its peg? But we'll see how it unfolds. I think they've actually handled or dealt with it quite well. We'll just see if this continues and what the kind of outcome of this will be. But potentially, and here's another tweet here, breaking news, stablecoin UST has lost its peg to the dollar and is now in free fall. Looks like Daquan has failed his experiment, and 3.5 billion BTC purchase via Luna LFG. Subsequently, BTC and Luna have crashed as well. This is history, folks. So I think what he's alluding to here is the fact that, if something like this did go south and Luna lost its peg and lots of people, hold it for that reason, UST for that reason, that would be a pretty catastrophic event for markets. So that is really all I have for you on this. We've reiterated, and there's not much change on our stance. We're still looking for more downside. Ultimately, I think that's where your risk is at the moment, to the downside. And we have broken below that. Doesn't mean we don't see a rally to sort of retest it before selling off lower. But ultimately, my overall bias over the next couple of months is that we continue to go down, not in a straight line, but ultimately that's the direction that I'm looking at. So that's really all I have for you in this video, guys. If you have enjoyed this content, a like is, of course, always appreciated. So is a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Luna situation in the comments. Just an interesting sort of talking point, mix things up for the channel, because, we've been very much TA driven, given, what we're looking at and where we think we're going. And I think people need to sort of be aware of that. But it's always good to get into some of the drama and interesting things happening within the cryptocurrency market. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video.